Hello and welcome to Big Weekend here on the Football 365 show, brought to you by Paddy Power. I'm your host Mark Smith. I'm here as ever with Editor-in-Chief of Football365.com, Sarah Winterburn. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe and crucially press the notification bell, and also give us a retweet or however you want to share this. It is much appreciated. Lots to talk about this weekend. Let's get straight into it. Right, Sarah, the big news, I suppose, this week was that the first game of this weekend was supposed to be Newcastle against Aston Villa. That's been postponed because of COVID. Anything interesting to talk about there?
Nope.
No. Okay, so the new first game of the weekend instead is Burnley versus Everton. Interesting game, this one, I think, for both sides. Feels like a crucial sort of couple of weeks for them.
Yeah, Burnley are a mess, aren't they? I mean, we all expected them to get rolled over by Man City, but that's a sort of soul-crushing defeat, isn't it? When you get rolled over so easily against a team so badly out of form. But then Everton, they're just not quite, aren't they? They're constantly not quite. You know, they had a great start to the season, but then they've fallen off. Again, injuries again. You know, the loss of Lucas Digne is absolutely massive. He's like one of the biggest creative outlets in that team. Yeah, I believe so, and that is a long time. They don't even really have a backup left back. You know, they're messing about with formations. You know, they switched to the wing back system in order to try and cover for the loss of Digne, really, because they don't have a natural left back. Because apparently Leighton Baines is now 84 and no longer sort of in the Premier League squad. But you know, that Everton side, as I said before, has 11 or 12 really good players. It doesn't have a great deal below that. But I mean, they really, if they've got any ideas whatsoever of maybe not upsetting the top six, but sort of getting close to them, of being the sort of the next best thing, they have to be beating Burnley. They have to be. This is a poor Burnley side. This is a Burnley side that can't score goals. This is a Burnley side that can't keep them out, which is usually the mark of a Sean Dyche side. So there's real pressure on this game because it could be a bit of a turning point for either side.
Yeah, I mean, Burnley tend to do this quite a lot, don't they? They start quite slowly, end up picking up some steam before Christmas, and then easily staying up. So I imagine that might happen again. But I really can't call this one. I've got no idea what's going to happen here. Like you say, Everton have got some individuals, but it's just not really working at the moment. As I've said for a couple of months now, yes, I was wrong about James Rodriguez, but now we're getting into the winter months. You might see him drop off a little bit, so let's wait and see. Right, let's move on. I want to talk about West Ham versus Manchester United. West Ham, not very good against Aston Villa, but ground out a result. United, okay against Southampton, good for a large part of the second half, and got their sort of Ferguson-esque 3 points. How do you see this one going?
This is pretty interesting, isn't it? You've got the David Moyes against Man United element. We've also got this you know, we're going into this weekend when West Ham are higher in the table than Man United, and probably deservedly so as well. Yeah. You know, David Moyes has hit his sweet spot here again with West Ham. You know, we forgot in those years when it kind of went wrong at Man United and then it went terribly wrong at Sunderland. And obviously he had that year at Real Sociedad where he probably shouldn't have done that. That wasn't a great choice.
I completely blanked that out. I don't remember that at all.
But now he's back to what is really comfortable with him. And, you know, this is the job he did at Everton, isn't it? Is taking a team scattered with a little bit of talent, with a little bit of magic, and surrounding them by with workers and players picked up from the Championship who are hungry. And he can build that kind of team. We've seen him before at Everton, and if West Ham sort of allow him the time, you know, he could very easily sort of keep West Ham in the top half of the table, I think. Because we forget he is any good really at that kind of management.
You don't have a career this long in the Premier League without having good qualities.
He probably over that period of time when he failed at Man United and then failed really spectacularly at Sunderland, he's probably unfairly put in that sort of group with the likes of Alan Pardew and Mark Hughes. Those kind of managers who seem to get a job whatever. Yeah. But Moyes does deserve this chance at West Ham because he's done it. He did it over a prolonged period of time at Everton, and he can probably do it again. You know, Man United away from home, they've looked a different.
It's sort of set up for them, isn't it?
The one at home. Yeah, I think you'd fancy Man United, but it's not going to be easy. Definitely not going to be easy. And United played all right at Southampton. They didn't play too badly in that first half. They probably, you know, they didn't deserve to be 2-0 down at half time. No. But then pulling themselves out of it, you know, the one thing about this United side is they don't give up. I mean, the one thing about this United side isn't that they're any good. It's just that they don't give up.
No, that's fair. As part of my four-way accumulator with Paddy Power, I'm going to go for both teams to score in that one. I think it is set up for United, but West Ham have been pretty good, particularly at home. Right, let's move on. For me, this is the biggest game of the weekend. It used to be an extremely close fixture and one that Spurs used to dread. But now, Spurs-Arsenal, I think Arsenal are feeling under the cosh here already, aren't they?
Oh, massively so. I mean, that's the real pressure at the moment, isn't it? There's every week of every season there has to be a crisis club, and Arteta stepped right into that gap to put Arsenal there. Really, really poor performance, a poor result against Wolves. He changed the system. He got rid of the three at the back. He put Saka further up the pitch, which is all things that the fans had said they'd wanted, and it still didn't work. It absolutely still didn't work. And I mean, there's some argument that the Spurs game is probably what they need because, in the same way that years ago we would say form goes out of the window and the underdog can win this kind of derby. It's now switched that Arsenal are the underdog in this game, and they may well pull something out of the bag because this is the derby.
Yeah.
And obviously they're playing Spurs, who, although they've sort of shed some of the reputation they had, that surely there's still an element of Spursiness there somewhere. They could cock this up, couldn't they?
Yeah, of course they could. I don't think they will. I think the biggest indictment here
I think
Arsenal,
under Jose Mourinho, that sort of flattening of the playing field that a derby brings probably goes out of the window. We saw him do a job on Chelsea last week. This time they'll be more adventurous because they can afford to be more.
And that's an indictment on Arsenal, isn't it?
The
fact they're not going to be setting up to contain Arsenal. They're going to be going to win this game, and I think they will. That's part of my four-way accumulator. I think Spurs will win this, and I think we'll see.
I think they absolutely should enter this game to blow Arsenal away.
Yeah.
I think that should be the way that they approach this. Whether they do or not, whether Jose Mourinho will dare to do that. Because obviously they're in a rich run of form doing precisely the opposite against the big clubs. But Arsenal are no longer a big club. Play them like they're 14th because they are 14th.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on then. Again, every time I seem to bring Leeds up every single week at the moment. And I always say
love Leeds.
Proper traditional, classic, great British fixture, Your Majesty and all this. And actually, again, it is though, isn't it? It's Chelsea-Leeds. Chelsea-Leeds, that's a massive game. I love this game.
I immediately think Dennis Wise when you said Chelsea-Leeds.
Right, yeah.
Just because it does feel like a throwback, doesn't it? And you keep saying this. For a Derby fan, you're obsessed with Leeds.
I'm not obsessed with them. I admire the big clubs who've fought a long time in the lower divisions and come back up, and it feels like I'm 12 again. I like that.
And you admire clubs that have actually got a manager. That's probably.
Let's not talk about why are you bringing Derby into this again? I admire clubs who have got a manager in charge who is a professional football manager. Yes. Move on.
Leeds, Chelsea. Chelsea, we've seen. We're waiting for that real balance, aren't we? The balance between can they score? They scored all those goals that then let a load in. Then they stopped scoring all those goals and have not hardly let any in. And we're sort of waiting for that sweet spot with Chelsea that they're going to get it right and get the balance.
But they're doing
right.
that against the good sides, though, right? They're tightening up against the side they should be tightening up against.
It's whether they approach this as Leeds as being one of the better sides, even though the table doesn't really reflect that. You're playing against a manager who is tactically one of the best. So you do you play the manager or do you play the team? I mean, that's one question for Lampard. Does he approach this as if he's playing a mid-table team, or does he approach it as if he's playing Bielsa and he has to outthink him? And and maybe the answer is just to play the game and play the team in front. Chelsea's players are undoubtedly better than Leeds' players if you take the managers out of the equation. And if Chelsea approach it like that, this could be the perfect chance to score, to win a game 2 or 3-0. Not to give too much away, but then also to sort of open their legs going forward.
Yeah, well, Leeds have lost 2 of the last 4-1, haven't they? So it's not as if they can't be beaten and beaten well. I'm going to go for Timo Werner to score any time in this one. He's just looked incredibly sharp, and I think he's really playing his way into the Premier League quicker than I thought he would,
Absolutely,
actually.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our final game of the weekend. Brighton against Southampton. I don't know if this counts as any sort of derby. They're both on the coast. That's good enough for me. My accumulator here is going to be over 2.5 goals in this one. I think there'll be a couple of goals for one of the sides. 2-1. Don't know which way it's going to be. Sarah, how do you see this one going?
I think this is the two great sides to watch, I think, and two of probably the better coached teams in the Premier League. Regardless of where Brighton are in the league, they are a lovely team to watch.
Yeah.
They get everything right apart from they can't score for toffee. They haven't got a goal scorer. They haven't got a 10-goal-a-season goal scorer, I don't think, at the moment.
You don't think Maupay's that guy?
Kind of
No.
Maupay scores a few goals, but he misses so many. I mean, he's near the top of the big chances missed chart according to Opta this season, and he's always a bit like that. But Brighton don't create enough chances to allow him to miss those that volume of chances. Great hopes for Danny Welbeck, but how many games really will Danny Welbeck play this season?
Yeah.
Southampton, again, they're struggling a little bit without Danny Ings in terms of goal scoring. They've got James Ward-Prowse, but they can't just be a set piece team. I think you're right. I think there might be goals in this. This is a real sort of clash of two coaches who are probably coaching below their standard, if you know what I mean. But both of them could probably coach at a higher standard and with a better class of player, sorry.
Yeah, I think you're right about the managers. I think you mentioned there about them both being organised, and it's absolutely right. They're both very well organised, they're well drilled, everyone knows their job. But it frustrates me so much that isn't the absolute base level of a Premier League football team. But the truth is, it isn't though, is it? We see loads of clubs and teams that just aren't well organised, and I just think, what are you doing all week? Anyway, that's all we've got time for on the big weekend this week. Thanks to Paddy Power for sponsoring the show. We'll be back same time next week. Thank you, Sarah, for being with me. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can email us. It's theeditor@football365.com. Until next week, goodbye.